Robert Chambers lives in Cherokee County, and he has formed a coalition to educate folks on Georgia 20. Now, I live right off of Georgia 20. Whether it gets improved in its current roadway or one of those alternate freeway routes is selected, I'm impacted. So this affects me, and it affects really everybody in this room. So I would hope that everybody can have a few moments, gather your attention around Robert Chambers, who will come and educate us on Georgia 20.
I didn't get primed. Are you going to change the slides, or is there a remote?
I certainly can. You just say next, and
Okay.
I'll try to remember.
I'm not running for office, but I would like to do a couple of polls. How many of you are familiar with the State Route 20 Improvement Project sponsored by the Georgia Department of Transportation? Good. How many of you think State Route 20 needs to be improved?
I want it to go away.
How many of you believe that building a new 4 or 6 lane freeway from 575 to 400 with a divided median, renaming it Highway 20, constitutes improving State Route 20? Does anybody believe that? That's a direct quote of what GDOT said. You know, when we all said in December of a year, no, it was earlier than that, none of us went to the public meetings. I doubt that any of you went to the first round, because we're all in favor of improving State Route 20. Never dreamed that a new 6-lane freeway or 4-lane freeway would constitute improving State Route 20. Next slide. But GDOT is in fact considering the construction of a new freeway truck route through Cherokee and Forsyth County. They will say to the cows come home, which is still appropriate in Cherokee and parts of Forsyth, that it's not the Northern Arc. But in fact, it is part of the Northern Arc. As I will show you in a minute, one of the proposed routes is almost directly replicating the old Northern Arc. Next slide. Actually, Highway 20 is a tale of, it's a road, it's a tale of 3 roads, really. If you really look at it, Cumming is very congested. It's approximately, as you begin to get into the city limits of Cumming, maybe Spot Road East, it's a congested road certain times of the day. Now, being a foreigner, I come through here at 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock, it's no problem. But I understand that people that live here at 7 o'clock or 8 in the morning and 4 or 5 at night, it's a problem. But that's basically in Cumming. There's a 1-mile stretch from 575 coming east called Canton Marketplace. How many of y'all drive that far west over to 575? Right there where all that construction is on the left. It's very congested. That's a 1-mile stretch. The other 23 approximate miles in the middle really doesn't have much of a problem. Now, you may not agree with that, but if you are aware as you're driving that stretch of road, it's really not that big of a problem. So it is a tale of 3 roads. Next slide. The funny thing is, Canton Marketplace is not part of this project. Not 1 penny of this project will be spent to help Canton Marketplace. The first 4 rows on supporting data for the project includes the crash statistics for the Canton Marketplace, but it is not part of the project. I told GDOT, I said, why didn't you go down to Buckhead and pick out a mile? It would have been a lot more crowded, a lot more congested, a lot more unsafe. Major need to fix 20 even better, and it's not part of the project. This is not either. There's a separate state-funded project that will fix this stretch regardless of what happens to the State Route 20 Improvement Project. So they're being disingenuous at the best. They include congested time studies of this section as part of their justification for fixing the rest of the road. They included the crash statistics and they include the lack of mobility. But it is not part of the project. So our question is, why would you spend, they say $1 billion. We think with government overruns, maybe $2 billion. Why would you spend $2 billion to build a new freeway when a few $100 million would solve the congestion problem in Cumming? The congestion problem in Canton Marketplace is already taken care of. So why not spend a few $100 million maybe fixing Highway 20 from the Canton Marketplace over to the city limits of Cumming, and then spend big bucks solving the problems in Cumming? We get an improved transportation corridor. We spend a lot less money. We do not condemn 1,000 homes and kick people out of their houses. The problem is, this project is not about improving traffic flow in Cherokee and Forsyth County. It's just not. This project is about building a truck road to get traffic from I-85 eventually to I-75 without it going around 285. Next slide. GDOT knows, I say believes, GDOT knows it's cheaper to build a freeway in our county than it is to improve 285. We met with a commissioner for our district in Cherokee County, the Highway Commission board member, and he was very straightforward. It costs millions and millions of dollars per mile of right-of-way, and it costs thousands of dollars per mile of right-of-way up here. So it's nothing more complex than that. It's the same concept as the outer loop. How long ago was the outer loop? Anybody know off the top of their head?
Back in the 80s.
Would you believe that's about 30 years ago that when we fought and defeated the outer loop? The Northern Arc, which was a 56-mile stretch of that, was about 10 years ago. We defeated T-Splosh, which basically was a funding mechanism for these type roads, but they don't get the message. You know, it has an organic life of its own. I've read, and I have no reason not to believe it, that from the time 400 was conceived until it was finished, if it ever will be finished, was 50 years. You know, these projects take on an organic life of their own. As long as Highway 20 is a truck route, as long as Highway 20 as a truck route resides and lives and breathes in the Atlanta Regional Commission documents, and I know Forsyth is not part of the Atlanta Regional Commission,
Yes, we are.
which is very smart on your part.
No, we are.
Oh, you are?
We are.
Well, I was told you weren't, so.
Well, we are and then we aren't. Like,
Okay. Part and part?
yeah, we
Okay.
are when it comes to roads, and yet they don't include us on their own
Right.
documentation.
But as long as the ARC documents support truck traffic to solve the problems of Atlanta, this will keep coming back and coming back and coming back. It will never disappear, so we have to fight it, defeat it each time. And basically, you know, what you're going to do is you're going to solve Atlanta's problems by sacrificing our heritage. This is a cabin in northeast Cherokee County built in 1850. The gentleman who owns it now was born in that cabin, and I think he was married in that cabin. He'll be able to sit, when he goes out to visit his property, he'll be able to sit on those front steps and speak to the cars as they ride by, because they're right in front of it. Really a good thing. Next slide, please. Our coalition supports, you know, that's one advantage we have. We're not just against something. We support improvements to Highway 20. GDOT's own statistics says that using a name that's hard to love, Transportation System Management, has the potential to meet or exceed all of the transportation needs of the Highway 20 corridor through 2042. Transportation System Management is more left turn lanes, improved intersections, maybe a few more red lights, more passing lanes, safer, wider shoulders, better signage. It's proven, it works. It would take virtually no eminent domain, maybe a few spots they have to take a little bit, but not much. It would take 0 structures, and it would cost probably not much more than $100 million, if not substantially less than $100 million. Fortunately, and I'll show you a slide in a minute, in the area that we think is most at risk, we have got almost universal support from either elected officials or candidates. You know, Sherry and her run signed our pledge to support improvements and oppose the new freeway. So we're not just opposed to something, we support. Now, if I got real technical, there are 5 strategies that they're pursuing to accomplish all of this. We only oppose 1 of the 5. So we're not really an opposition group. We support 5 of 6 strategies. They are required by law to consider the no-build option. At the public hearings, they did not give you, if you went, an opportunity to give an opinion on the no-build option, but it's one of their strategies. So we support 5 of their 6 strategies, and we oppose 1 of them, and that's building a new freeway. Next slide, please. Real busy, but very, very quickly, and I won't dwell on this. I brought a hard copy if y'all want to pass it around or look at it later. They're considering it, and they've gotten smart. With the outer loop and the northern arc, there was 1 road, and you were either for it or against it. And it was very easy to get a group of people against it, a group of people for it. Very clean, very clear. If you look at all of the options for this road, there are 1,500 permutations. By the time they choose which route they're going to do, there are more than 1,500 possible choices. So it's very difficult to get a coalition and hold one together, because somebody will say, well, I'm opposed to this gold road, but I'm for the purple road. Well, of course, the purple guy says, I'm against the purple road, but I'm for the gold road. So that's something we've had to fight this time that we did not have to fight with the northern arc. The other thing they've done for the freeway option, they said, well, what we'll do is divide and conquer. So they're looking at 2 possible locations. One that runs parallel to Highway 20 and north of Highway 20. Highway 20 runs right through all these squiggly lines. The other possible location runs south of 20 and parallel. This dashed line is the old northern arc. So this road is not the northern arc, but it sure looks like the northern arc to me. If they choose to build a freeway, obviously they will not build 2 freeways. They would only build 1 freeway. There's no doubt in my mind one of the driving forces behind this was for these people to say, we don't want this one, build that one. And that's exactly what happened. Recently they sent out a release that said 60%, I think, of the people preferred the northern freeway. But if you look, they had another chart that they didn't show in the paper, where when you went to the public house, you put on the map where you lived, and there was this big mass of yellow and orange and green dots along here where the people attending the public meeting lived. And of course, they were saying, don't build this one, build that one. And the position of the coalition says, we will not be divided. You know, this is an issue of the quality of life in Forsyth and Cherokee County. It's an issue of what's right and what's wrong. It's an issue of what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. We are opposed to either or both of the freeway locations. Now, what happens in the middle? Transportation system management would only affect the original existing road bed. If they start talking about widening or improving the road, there are choke points. In Cherokee County, at Buffington, there's a church and cemetery. Technically, they can condemn a cemetery, but they almost never will. At Macedonia, there is the same situation. At Lathamtown, it's really the old community and some old structures and businesses. Ducktown the same way. So they've come up with these 3 bypasses around each of these choke points. And they're saying, well, If we don't use transportation system management, which just fixes the existing road, we'll go in and pick one of these bypasses. So we might pick this one, and we might pick that one, and we might pick this one to build the road to do the minimal damage. So that's what all these squiggly lines are. But again, for clarity, we say fix the existing highway, do not build the new freeways. The coalition's position on each of these communities, if GDOT says the preferred option is to fix the road so we have to choose bypasses, the coalition says we will not, as a two-county coalition, establish a position on an individual community without going to that community and letting the community tell us what their solution is. We're not going to try to tell Cumming which of the 5 workarounds to do. It doesn't make any sense. If GDOT finally comes out and says, well, we've eliminated the freeways, we've eliminated transportation system management, now we're trying to decide which of these options in Cumming. If we can't get a sense from the people of Cumming, and we have a lot of people like Kerry and others, Tea Party that we're reaching out to, if we can't get a sense of what to support there, the coalition would not take a position. So at no time will we ever try to dictate to a local community what should happen to them in their community, other than saying we don't want a new freeway in your community. Next slide, please. Very quickly, it's a kind of a boring slide. These are such highly developed, densely developed communities. And I forgot to mention on that previous map, to be honest, for the GDOT, those are conceptual locations of the road. They do not know where the actual road will be. It's just, we think it might be here, and now they're fine-tuning it. We did some sensitivity work, and it looks to us, regardless of where they thread those freeways, that somewhere between 600, 700, and 1,000, possibly 1,200 homes would need to be condemned.
And they'll have to kill me first.
One thing you need to be aware of, I haven't seen as much in Forsyth, but in Cherokee County, there are a lot of old ranch-style houses sitting on commercial lots that are already zoned commercial. They're vacant. The windows are broken out. They're for sale to be developed. Under the federal highway rules, if that structure is 50 years old and maintains its original context, they cannot disturb it without extensive documentation as to why there's no other option rather than disturbing that structure. And when people say, well, I want them to buy my house and tear it down, GDOT will say, well, if you'll buy it and tear it down, we have no problem. But if it's not torn down, federal law says it's a historically significant structure, and we cannot disturb it unless we can explain why there's no other option. Your house is 20 years old, your house is 35 years old, there is no protection. And don't ever think that because your house is worth $300,000, $200,000, $800,000, that they will go take a $50,000 house before they take your $500,000 house. One house is one house. They cannot consider value. It will create a second commercial corridor. Highway 20 is not going away. And they say, we're going to do a limited access road, they can't develop it. Where in America can you find a place where they've improved a road system like this and a densely populated like this that entrepreneurs have not figured out how to develop around it? It will create another commercial corridor. It will create another plume of unhealthy air. When we fought the Northern Arc, one of the greatest allies were scientists at Georgia Tech. And at that stage 10 years ago, the best they could say is, we think, we're studying, we began to believe, there are indications of that. Now, 10 years later, the Environmental Protection Agency says, and I'll point that out a little bit later in more detail, If you live near a major road, you will have a greater instance and a more severity of health problems. It's not that you might, it's you will. It's more pronounced in children and people like me, old folks. So 20 is not going away. We've got a plume of unhealthy air with it. It's commercial. They'll build another one. Next slide, please. Our analysis says that there are probably 105 subdivisions in Cherokee County, 238 subdivisions in Forsyth County at risk of these road adjustments coming through your subdivision. So you cannot look at that map I gave you and it passed around and say, well, that road doesn't go through my subdivision, because they're going to move those routes. And next slide, please. Here's an example. This is in Forsyth County. This is existing 20, and this is 1,000 meter. I think I said feet, I meant meter. This is 1,000 meter. It's a good proxy for the commercial development, but it's an excellent proxy for the plume of unhealthy air and direct impact. If you live within that plume, you will have a direct impact. Here's the northern possible freeway if they built it. So you just put another, and this is Forsyth County. You tell me how you're going to put this road through this area without negatively impacting a significant number of those subdivisions. The lottery is just which one will they impact. Next slide, please. This kind of puts it in perspective for Cherokee and Forsyth. You can see the subdivisions, you can see the proposed freeways on the south and the north. You can't go through here for obvious reason that I'm sure you know what that is, Sawney Mountain. So it's not like you can, well, let's just come through here and there are not many houses. You're either going to go above and you can't go below because you begin to run into this. Next slide. Cherokee County, next slide. Just a blow up on Forsyth County. If you look at the public hearings that they had in December, and if you only look at Forsyth County, citizens were given the opportunity on all of those options to say whether you like it or you dislike it or are neutral. 57% of all the choices made was to dislike. There is no mandate from the citizens of Forsyth County to build a freeway or to do anything, as a matter of fact. Now this was like American Idol. You could vote more than once. So when you look at the number of choices made, it was not the number of people involved. They reached very, very, very few people. I think less than 700 people were reached in person to make these decisions. But even those 700 people, plus the ones that hit online, dislike what GDOT's trying to do. And yet they're cherry picking the statistics, because if you do see those people that made a choice on the northern freeway, 1,700 choices out of 21,000 choices, 60% of those favored the northern freeway. But again, they were mostly from people that live down here. So the statistics don't support what they're trying to do. Next slide, please. And these are just to show how it's so difficult to work around, especially in Forsyth County. This is Post Road, if I'm not mistaken. This is Estates at Creekside. I forget, I can't read on the slide these subdivisions.
Castleberry Road.
You tell me, and I believe this is the West Forsyth High School. You tell me, this is an interchange. How can they move that interchange to avoid the school or subdivisions? They can't do it. You know, they could drop it down here and mess up these subdivisions. They could leave it here and come across here and miss this. And that's why we say it doesn't much matter where they do it, it's just who gets gored, but the same number of people are going to get gored. Next slide, please. I'm trying to respect our time. You should also remember it's about the quality of life. It's not really what it will do to your house or your development entirely. This is Telfair development, if I'm saying that correctly. The road is really right through here, which will have a significant impact. But this is the pollution impact. So it would affect the entire community. It would affect the high school where you're sending your kids to school, and it would affect these other developments. So this is not, boy, it missed my house. It's what's this going to do to your county and the quality of life you expect out of your county. Next slide, please. This is an example in Cherokee County. There are 4,000 students in these 3 schools. And again, I didn't put the health on here, but it's really big. You know, they can move this down here, they can flatten this out, but there's some creeks and wetlands here, so they can't go very far. It doesn't alleviate the health problems in those schools if they build this. Next slide. Same thing. Here's State Route 20, here's the new road. So it really, Macedonia Elementary, I really wouldn't want my kids going to school there. Next slide. And this is what I said, EPA is, they're unequivocal now. You know, the research, and we've got dozens and dozens of research reports from universities all over the country. There was a lawsuit in Las Vegas that moved the road over air quality problems. That's real. You know, a freeway induces more traffic, which increases pollution. Next slide, please. The other thing that you might think is a small deal, but this freeway will bisect somewhere between 50 and 100 existing county roads. Not all of those, not very many of those will get overpasses. They will become dead-end roads. So don't take for granted that the normal traffic patterns you've been using for 20, 25, 30 years will be available to you if one of these freeways are built. Next, you know, the freeway goes right across the middle of this road that goes into a subdivision there. Next slide, please. If you look at all these communities I talked about, every one of them, the majority of the choices they made were negative. Every one of them, all of the Buffington, Macedonia, Lathamtown, there is no mandate for GDOT to do this. Next slide. And this is, the whole data set that they use is screwed up. This is the Canton Marketplace I was talking about, but it's not part of it. They've done extensive work on Highway 20 in Cherokee County, new turn lanes, new red lights, widening, passing lanes. The statistics they used to justify this project assume none of that was done. Their crash statistics end in 2009. They used 3 years, 7, 8, and 9 for their crash statistics. So even the statistics they use to justify this project are seriously flawed. Next slide. What can you do? This is the website, or email address, excuse me, for the Department of Transportation. If you have not done so, you need to send them an email and say, please put me on your list, and they will, so that you get personal notification of what's going on with this road. It's SR20 improvements at dot.ga.gov.
Is this information on your Facebook page?
And on the website.
Okay.
We would also encourage you to send the same email address an email saying, if you agree with the coalition, that we oppose the construction of freeways and we support improvements to the existing road. Just as simple as that. But SR20 improvements at dot.ga.gov. Final slide. And the best way to interface with us now is probably through our website, which has a link to the Facebook page. Highway20.org works. HYW, not highway, HYW20.org, or HY20coalition.com. Either one of those gets you to the website. Any questions? Apologize for rushing through.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's not really a question. Back in 2004, the Northern Arc was starting to be planned. I was part of the coalition to stop it, and the way that we stopped it was as the GOT, as the GDOT and all these other insiders were getting ready to form the ARC as to where it was going, the people were thinking that their houses were going to be taken under eminent domain. So the people started putting their houses up for sale. The insiders, public officials, GDOT, the governor, all these other people, were all scapping up all these properties at a low price. The Stop the ARC coalition let everybody know that it was going to go through. Some of this stuff's going to go through unless you stop it. The only way you're going to stop it is to let people know that the people who are buying up this land, because they know this is going to go through, are the public officials who are involved in the corruption part of the buying the land in eminent domain. None of us are going to know about it. But we have a judge, Leslie Abernathy. She was involved in buying all kinds of properties. She was trying to get this all passed. She's a judge now. So, and then we have these other public officials that are still around that had bought all the property. Luckily, the coalition got out there and let everybody know we were strong. We're not strong now. We don't have any strength in this county. With the GOP in this county, I don't even know what to say about it. But if we got out there and let everybody know that there was so much corruption going to be involved in all of this, that's the only way it's going to stop. Letting people know that the people who are involved in this are going to threaten everybody under eminent domain, buy the property really cheap, and make millions of dollars on the resale of property to the state. That's how they do it.
Yeah, my advice, I've been through eminent domain many, many times in my career. I bought land, large tracts of land in over 26 states for pension funds. And as a result of that, we went through eminent domain many times on highway projects. You're not going to agree with me, the coalition doesn't agree with me, but after the initial shock wears off, values go up. And what it does is it induces growth, which will reduce lot size. That's why I say this is a quality of life. This is a quality of life issue. If they spend $2 billion building a freeway, property values will go up. So I would caution anyone to not overreact. And eminent domain, if you go about it properly, you as a homeowner, and mind your business, in my experience, they don't steal your property. And you do have the option to make sure you're getting market value. What you give up is the time of the sale. You can't decide when I want to move my family. You can't decide that I don't want my pasture broken into 2 pieces. The government decides that. My experience has been if you mind your business, get good representation, that you more than likely will get fair market value at that point in time. That's another problem. If the economy hasn't recovered, you're not going to get the historical value of your house. You're going to get the current value of your house. But I would certainly encourage people not to overreact, sell their house cheap in anticipation of something bad happening. I think that's
the message.
I don't know any other way to say it, but that would be a foolish reaction.
This is something that I'm concerned with. I'm a science major, and I am concerned when they start messing with our terrain. Don't mess with our terrain, because it leaves us right now, the lay of our land protects us from bad storms pretty much. Most of you may not be aware, but there is a reason we don't get hit by tornadoes and things. They start bulldozing down our hills and whatever, and we're going to be wide open to all kinds of problems. And y'all laugh at me if you want to, but I majored in chemistry, minor in biology. I know about science. And look at California, look at Colorado. We don't need to let people be bulldozing down our hill.
And what I need to keep reinforcing, the real issue is not that, you might lose your home. This is a quality of life issue for these 2 counties, and that's what, I don't remember your name, but that's what you just said. And you've got to accept that as the battleground. It is a quality of life. What do you want Forsyth County, Cherokee County to be like? I'll recognize you in just a minute. I want to say one thing before I get it. The single most important human being for this battle is Governor Nathan Deal. 20% of this money comes from the state of Georgia. Governor Deal, if he would come out and say, I will not support spending tax money on this freeway boondoggle, it won't happen. If Governor Deal chooses not to take a position, this is a process-driven event that most likely will happen. So, fortunately, unfortunately, we have a gubernatorial candidate that will have probably the toughest race of a governor in this state in 30 years, 20 years. He may listen, but you've got to talk to him. You've got to talk to him, and he is the single most important. Mr. Williams signed our pledge. We appreciate that. You need to thank him for that. Once he's elected, you need to hold him to that pledge. Pete Amos gave us a very, very strong letter of support on the letterhead. You need to thank him for that, and you need to hold him accountable. Sherry signed our pledge. Unfortunately, she was not successful. Her opponent, who you did not support, is a very, very strong supporter of our position. We need to thank her for her support. We need to thank Mark Hamilton for his support, and we need to hold him accountable. That's what you were saying. You know, he is the elected representative. He does support not building a road. Your county, I never get the right term for the Board of Commissioners for the Georgia Department of Transportation, but your local representative has said through Mark Hamilton that he supports improving the existing road, not building a new one. You need to thank him for that and hold him accountable. Virtually all Todd Levatt has been a good supporter. Whether you love him or hate him, I don't know, because I'm not from Forsyth County. He's been a strong supporter, so we're getting on the local level very, very strong support to keep this as an improvement project, not as a new construction project. Now, you had a question or comment?
So, for businesses, for Georgia, having the east-west corridor probably provides more business, right? So, and I'm stepping into this green. It seems to me the population density around here is just too dense to make any sense. Are you opposed to any east-west corridor, or just one that's hitting high population density areas?
The coalition is opposed to this project, State Route 20 Improvement Project, which only includes the roads shown on this map. We have not taken a position if at some point they cancel this and come back with a route further away.
Well, it seems to me to make sense.
My personal
If you're
opinion,
going with growth, you put it way out where there's not a whole lot of population density,
And
which
y'all
I'm
tell
sure
me-
upsets farmers and stuff like that.
Yeah, y'all tell me when to
Somebody's gonna be
quit.
upset when they go there.
my personal opinion in working in 26 states across this country, you cannot build prosperity on asphalt. Can't be done. You build 4 lanes, in a few years you need 6 lanes. You build 6 lanes, in a few years you need 10 lanes. When Google could not get employees to work at their campus in Seattle, do you know what they did? They did not go to government and say, build another road, build a ferry, build a bus line. They created their own bus system. They operate Google Bus to transport their workers to their campus. They're operating ferries on a test basis to see if they can substantiate that. My point is, you tell me the financial titans of Atlanta has one problem. I drove down there every day for 10 years. They have one problem. Their problem is importing workers in the morning and exporting workers in the afternoon. Also remember, the elites of Atlanta says to truckers, you shall not drive on 20 miles of Interstate 20 through our city. You shall not drive on 20 miles of I-85 through our city or I-75 through our city. But by the way, If we build a freeway in Cherokee and Forsyth County, go up there and travel it every day. Atlanta needs to solve their own problem, and they cannot solve it up here. I'm telling you, congestion on 285 will not go away if we build a freeway up here. Now, growth is way beyond our discussions tonight. What constitutes good growth? 75% of the workers in Cherokee County leave the county for work, and that's an atrocity. I don't know about Forsyth. I'm proud to say that our elected officials there, if they can succeed, their goal is to build jobs in Cherokee County, so they don't need to exit on freeways. Final thing, and I'll hush, if they build this freeway, the interchange is 2 miles from my house. I live halfway between Canton and Cumming. I can get on that freeway and get to Canton 10 miles or get to Cumming 15 miles. I will save on average 3 or 4 minutes either way. I also will say, in looking at the growth plans for Cherokee and Forsyth County, I think I'm correct. I know I'm correct in Cherokee. I'm not sure about Forsyth. Cherokee, future growth plans do not envision another city the size of Canton or Cumming being built in North Cherokee County. This road is not needed for the prosperity of Cherokee County. And we could debate, and I feel very comfortable in my position on the needs of Atlanta, but I don't think Cherokee County has to solve the problems of Atlanta. Nathan Deal is the key. Talk to him. He'll listen over the next, between now and November. December, I'm not sure. And that's no aspersion on the man. That's just the way it works in the world. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.